Namaskar. My best wishes and love to all our viewers and listeners who are watching this video. Today, our talk will be in English because we have a few non Bengali friends, both in India and abroad, who have been sending in their queries and who want to attain a degree of clarity in their own personal lives. The first question that we are going to deal with today comes from Teresa. Teresa has asked, how can I understand which is my rule in this life? I think you meant role. I am a little bit confused in this period of my life. I know I have started the right path for me, but I feel something is missing. How can I understand what I am missing and what I have to do to fulfill my role in this life? Well, Teresa, you have mentioned in your question that I know I have started the right path for me. I hope by right path you have implied your spiritual path, a path that you have taken that is going to foster or help you to grow spiritually. Because that is the first role in our life, to dig deep into ourselves, to go within ourselves and find out our center, to develop roots, and then to grow from there, from the center, to expand the periphery, the circumference. And the more we go into ourselves, the more the truth of life begins to reveal itself. And there comes a time in our life when you and life are not different. The outside and the inside is apparently two aspects of life in the beginning, but as we progress and as we evolve spiritually, the two begins to merge. So the role becomes automatic. So before we talk about that role, even that role has two aspects of it. First is the internal and then the external. The external becomes a continuation, an extension, a reflection of the internal. Now, in the spiritual path, there are many paths. For people who want to seek answers by thinking, for them it is a path of discrimination, which is called Jnana Yoga. For those people who sort of desire, have a strong will, determination, perseverance, which means they have a strong mind-oriented person. For them, it is the path of meditation, which is called Raj Yoga. For those who are emotional, who want to love and be loved, who thrive best in relationships, for them it is the path of devotion, or which is called Bhakti Yoga. For those who want to be more involved in action, in service, in running around and doing things. For them, it is a path of action, which is called karma yoga. Now, each of these paths does not really stand alone, because as human beings, we are a combination of all these factors. We want to think things out, we want to understand the secrets of life intellectually. We all have desires, wishes, plans, will. So, in that sense, our mind is active. We are all emotional, more or less. We all want to relate with love and with friendship and in relationships. And we all also somehow want to engage ourselves in physical activities. So, we are a combination of all these faculties, but we have to find out what is my dominating mood, in this case your dominating mood, which is the guiding mood for you, which will help you to go deep into yourself. While you encourage the dominating mood to become more and more intense in your spiritual progress, the other faculties also contribute to that mood. For example, if you are a devotional person, then you too need to discriminate about different aspects of life. Otherwise, devotion becomes blind and does not take you anywhere. If you are into meditation, seriously into meditation, then also you need to love. Because in meditation you have a goal, you have a purpose. You have to love that goal, you have to love that purpose, you have to love that path. So, devotion, discrimination, karma, and meditation are all intermingled. They complement each other, but you have to identify which is your primary and dominating mood, which will be your particularly suitable for you, because each one of us is different. And we actually do not choose the path chooses us. Even for each path of these four categories that we discussed are the main categories. Even each one of them has many, you can say, sideways. For example, devotion. There are many types of devotion. What kind of relationship would you like to have with existence? For devotion, usually, we need a figure, we need a symbol, we need a personification. That is why in all the religions of the world, there are images, there are gods and goddesses to help devotees to have a relationship with them. Someone with whom they can pray, they can talk to, they can complain to, someone with whom they can cry, they can laugh, they can share, so that the emotions and the desires and the thoughts are all channelized in one direction. That is the main idea of spiritual pursuit, that all your energies have to be channelized in one direction. You cannot really separate spirituality from other aspects of life. That here you are engaged in worldly life, and in the morning and the evening you take a break for half an hour or 40 minutes to do some spiritual pursuit. This separation is superficial, and that won't help. So now the question is how to understand this path. You have said that you think you are in the right path. But in spite of that, we are going to talk about knowing the path, because it will be helpful for many people. It could be helpful, and it could also be helpful for you to understand with greater clarity. Usually it is not very easy to understand which is my path. Why is it not easy? Why is it difficult? Mainly because we are very deeply identified with our individuality, with our individual nature, with our mind, with our desires, with our wishes, with our thoughts, our ideas, our opinions, our emotions. We are too identified with them. A lot of I has got invested in these things. To understand with some clarity my particular nature or the quality of my nature, I need to distance myself from my individuality, which is a very deeply spiritual process. I need to acknowledge and recognize that my body is here with its own unique qualities, but I am not the body. So I can observe the body from a bit of a distance. Distance is required to understand. We need to identify or acknowledge, to recognize that my mind is there, full of desires and needs, but I am not the mind. So we can distance ourselves from our desires and observe the quality of the desires, the root of the desires, the direction of these desires. The same goes for my emotions. My love, my hate, my friendships, my sorrows, my joys, everything related to emotions. They are my emotions, but I am not these emotions. So there is a need to distance myself from these waves of emotions so that I can understand the quality of these emotions, the base, the foundation of these emotions, the nature of these waves. Same thing goes for my thoughts and my ideas and my opinions. Sometimes we become so egocentric that the ideas and opinions that we form when we are young, when we are at the university, when we are teenagers, or when we get some ideas from our teachers or from our parents, we get stuck to these ideas for the rest of our life. Even when someone or some other ideas come up, are revealed to us, those do not penetrate us because we are living in an enclosed space of our own ideas and opinions. So even in this case, we need to realize that I have ideas, I have opinions, but I am not an idea. I am not an opinion. I am not an intellectual concept. These are mine, and I can observe this, the play of the intellect, from a distance. So, this distancing is important. This separation of I from my is very important to get an overview of my individual nature. And for most people, it is impossible. It becomes impossible to do that. Because, as I said, it is a spiritual process, and after a degree of spiritual evolution, slowly and slowly that distancing, that detaching begins to happen. So, what usually happens in India is that the mentor or the spiritual master or the guide or the guru helps the disciple or the student to find his path. Because a realized Sadguru has got the power to understand the nature of each individual, to understand the uniqueness of a particular person. Because a Sadguru does not only see the present, he also sees the past lives, and he also sees the future, the potential, the possibilities, and accordingly he chooses the path that is right for that person. That path, and the path will have its own mantra, its own methods of sadhana, its own ideal, its own teachings, specific to that particular person. Because by myself, when we usually, this is a very confused world, and especially everything in education is homogenized totally, means you go to a school and it is a very static kind of an atmosphere. You learn or you study the same subjects, and you answer the same question papers, give the same exams, write almost the same answers, refer to the same books. So, the education system should have been designed, at least partially, to help a student to understand and recognize his potential, his own innate potential. But that is not the case. Education all over the world is driven by economics. So, it does not really play the role that it is supposed to. It is help you to understand a little bit about yourself and your connection to life as such, your connection to nature, your link with the universe. Because education does not play that role, cannot play that role, we need some insights from personalities or from masters who have a deep insight into human nature, because they know the reality of existence. Once they know the whole, they can easily identify the parts, because a part is a projection or a manifestation of the whole. So, from that overview, they can easily see that from where you have come, from what source, from what impressions, and to where you are heading. So, they will be able to, or a spiritual master is able to help you recognize and understand that path. And not only that, at the same time, you need to be groomed, you need an atmosphere, you need constant exposure to a spiritual ambience, to words, to thoughts, with friends, where there is a constant spiritual interaction. It can be in words, it can be in silence, it can be in service, it can be just an ambience, a natural spiritual ambience for the individual to grow naturally. At least in the first stages of a seeker's progress, he or she needs an environment to help him or to help her. And thus begins a spiritual journey. That is the first role for everybody, general rule. Just as every child goes to the school, the child does not decide before going to the school what is going to be his role. He knows now it is going to be, the role is going to be going to the school. In the same way, every person who wants to find some direction in life, the first major concern about this role is to go deep into his own existence, to try and find out his own center. Once he evolves through a period of maybe years, depends. That depends on the person's intensity of sadhana, how desperately or how deeply he is into the path, how sincerely he is into it, and he really wants to raise his energies, his level of consciousness to its optimum point. He wants to realize the truth of life, of himself. Both are one. Depending on that intensity, there comes a time when he has attained a level of maturity and evolution that a particular role specifically for that person begins to evolve, almost materialize automatically around him. He does not have to worry about it. He need not have any doubts about it, because the role is a continuation of his sadhana or the pursuit that he was following. Till this moment, he was pursuing his truth within himself. Now, after some evolution, after he has managed to sort of organize his thoughts, emotions, desires, and to deal with them, the pursuit of the sadhana continues now with an outer manifestation, where he is going to play a role in society, with other human beings, with nature. And it will evolve automatically. His interest, his keenness, his talents, which were all there but slightly dormant, will now wake up. Even to play a particular role. Suppose somebody tells you that your role is going to be the role of a musician. Suppose someone tells you this. Now, even just by knowing that your role is of a musician, you are not going to become a musician. You have to practice. You'll have to go to a teacher and persevere. You have to work hard. You have to listen to music constantly. You have to meet friends who are on the same path so that there can be an interaction, a dynamic interaction for you to learn and assimilate. So you have to work hard. So in this case also, the role that you are going to play also needs training, grooming, also needs to be fine-tuned, also needs to be practiced. That also needs an atmosphere, and that has to be free from the idea of livelihood or profession or commerce, because all these concepts are man-made, and we are talking about something that is universal and natural. When you begin to play a role in life, a role that is best suited for you, and you have attained a degree of spiritual maturity, then I can guarantee you that that role will keep you alive. Whether it makes you rich or famous is not important. That is not relevant. But whether that role sustains you, yes, it will. That is the play of divinity. In this world, most people are doing in their work what they are not intended to do. They are doing it just for some vague ideas that they have about life, some weird ideas about success, about being rich, about being socially acceptable, and all these things. That is why most people are not happy with their life, because they are doing something, they are spending the best part of their life doing something which they don't want to do. But they feel they don't have a choice. They have never really worked hard in trying to find out what is it that is actually suitable for that person. So that is why I hope I have made myself a little bit clear now. To summarize, if you are on the right path, then don't worry. But when you say that something is missing in your life, then maybe in that path there is something that you are not being able to touch, you are not being able to connect with. Try to distance yourself, try to be more specific next time when you ask me a question like this. Try to be a bit more specific. What is it? Is it a human touch that you are missing? Is it an emotional touch that you are missing? Do you feel that your sadhana or pursuit is becoming a bit dry, a bit routine-like? maybe there is a devotional aspect in you or an emotional aspect in you which is not getting enough spiritual food. So, probably you are in the right path, but you need a bit of a devotional element to that path so that the missing link is completely fulfilled. So, that is the role that I would recommend for you. Go more deep within and distance yourself from your individuality. Then you will be able to understand your own body better without the dictums of what a spiritual body should be. All the things that are being written in the books, all the things that preachers are saying does not apply to everybody in the same way. Once you know your own body, you will recognize that. Then you try to understand your mind, your desires, and try to channelize, manipulate those desires towards spiritual bliss, towards divine love. Because all our desires are actually for happiness and for love. But we are not always aware of it. We think of the objects, we think about the things, the circumstances, the situations that we want, but we do not usually focus on the underlying principles, on the underlying needs of these objects, which is bliss and love. In this way, try to distance yourself from your thoughts and opinions and become free from all this. You are free from opinions, from desires, from emotions, everything. You are free. Try to. That should be the basis of your practice. Observing. The more you distance yourself, the more you will be able to see your own individual nature and its tendencies, and which one dominates. That is the path. And I am sure soon, within a very short time, once you take that path, once you follow that path, the role that you have in life outside, in the outside world, will begin to form by itself. That field is going to be formed by itself. Well, I hope this answers your question. We'll come back again in some future presentation. Till that time, all my best wishes and love. Namaskar.